Hello, I'm David, creator of the MOJO Academy, and this is a MOJO Academy Presents. On today's video, we are going to set the stage for an adventure I'm hoping you will join me on. We are going to answer the fundamental question, why read? You see, I've been reading books for the better part of the last 15 years at a pretty good clip, roughly about 20 to 30 books per year. And over that time and during that journey, I've discovered some things. And part of this video experience will be what I've discovered that I want to share with you. And ever since graduating college, way back in the 1990s, I've been on a self-study journey of sorts. It's picked up speed in the last 10 to 15 years. So I'm going to be covering books that our American education system, well, for the past 100 years, it's just frankly forgot about, or they didn't care about, or they just didn't want they didn't want to teach us. They purposely just didn't want to teach us. Now you might be asking, well, who are you? Good question. Like I said, I'm David. I'm a kid who grew up in the Midwest. I just passed my 50th birthday. And so my childhood, I remember it fondly. I grew up in the 1980s. And I believe we got a lot of things right in the 1980s. And we're going to talk about the principles of the 1980s, and we're going to learn from those principles because I believe they can apply to us today and in the future. And I also grew up believing in God. However, I didn't attend church. And that's important because I think I can give a different perspective than someone who's just grown up all the way through as a practicing Christian, or someone who has grown up all the way through as a practicing Catholic, or was an atheist for most of their life. I've kind of straddled both of those areas, so I can understand both sides. But I have been a practicing Catholic for the last 28 years, thank God. And that certainly comes with its ups and downs, just like anyone else. But what I will bring to these book discussions is a Catholic and Christian worldview. I know it's not popular, but it's who I am. It's just going to be part and parcel of what we talk about here. Now, the last part that I want to share with you is, why will we be talking about books and solely books? Well, that brings me around to my last point, because frankly, I believe we're in the golden age of books. We have access to just about any book that's ever been written, frankly. There's used books out there. There's digital books. There is Audible books, which is a preference of mine. But both you and I, we have to take advantage of this time and these books because, boy, they just contain a lot of wisdom. A lot of wisdom that our education system should have been passing along to us. And frankly, they have just missed out on. So I believe it's going to be the death of the American education system, but time will tell. And most likely that'll be a video for a different day. But for today, I want to cover our first book, so you can get a feel how I present books and what is my style. One thing you should know, I'm not a professor. I'm not a scholar of these books. I'm just an American citizen with a microphone who is passionate about the great books, both the classics and the modern books, to help us move down the road to a flourishing life. Now, this notion of a flourishing life is a big deal for me. You will hear me talk about it all the time. And we'll unpack this idea as we go along. So that's a little bit about my style and my own personal thoughts. Hopefully with these books, you can agree with me, or perhaps you can agree to disagree with me. Anyway, I think it would be a good, healthy discussion, something we don't always see in our digital age. Oh, and there's one more thing. I love quotes. I love the actual quotes from the books. To me, it's like real food. And so much of what we're finding in book summaries or book reviews is what I think is kind of like fast food. You feel like you're not even sometimes eating real food. And if I read a book review or a book summary and it doesn't have any real actual quotes, I'm not sure if they've even read the book, and I'm immediately skeptical. So with me, you should know you're going to be getting a lot of quotes. It's just my style. So with that all said, let's go on to our first book of the day, which is by Father James Schall, and it was written back in 1988, and it is a wonderful book. It's a favorite of mine, and the title is Another Sort of Learning. And the reason it changed my mind is because I then, after reading this book, saw education as something like completely different than what I had gone through in public education all my life. In fact, what I had gone through for a couple of years, even in college. You know, the education that is talked about in this book is just a different form of education. It is truly, as the title says, another sort of learning. Now, this book is a collection of essays that details how to pursue a true education and begin to answer those fundamental questions about existence and truth and meaning. Now, there's three different parts of the book we're going to cover, but just one for today. So the first section is called So You're Still Perplexed Even in College, which is a fascinating question. And then number 2, books you'll never be assigned. And number 3, have you ever thought about it this way? Those 3 sections we're going to explore, but to keep things short for today's video, we're going to pull our quote from chapter 2, titled, of all things, Why Read? Because this is our core nugget of wisdom today. Now, it's a long quote, so just stay with me here. And let's go on to the book. Leo Strauss, in a memorable remark, noted that we are lucky if more than one or two great minds are alive in the generations during which we ourselves are alive. This meant, in Strauss's view, that we would have to encounter the great minds mostly in books. Strauss himself, one of the great teachers of our century, is worth citing here. He writes, "Teachers themselves are pupils and must be pupils. But there cannot be an infinite regress. Ultimately, there must be teachers who are not in turn pupils. Those teachers who are not in turn pupils are the great minds. In order to avoid any ambiguity in a matter of such great importance, the greatest minds. Such men are extremely rare. We are not likely to meet any of them in any classroom. We are not likely to meet any of them anywhere. And it is a piece of good luck if there is a single one alive in one's time. For all practical purposes, pupils of whatever degree of proficiency have access to the teachers who are not intern pupils, to the greatest minds, only through the great books. Liberal education will then consist in studying, with the proper care, the great books which the greatest minds have left behind." This consideration about the importance of reading the great books to confront the greatest minds needs, however, to be recalled in the context of the fact that at least 2 of the most important human beings that ever lived, Socrates and Christ, did not write any book at all. They did, nevertheless, have scribes and students who listened carefully to what they said. The records of these sayings and reflections constitute some of the most precious readings that we possess, on which civilization itself rests. Not to know or possess these books is not to have begun any serious intellectual endeavor. And again, that was Father James Schall and Another Sort of Learning, our book for the day. And that phrase, the great books which the greatest minds have left behind, that phrase, frankly, has captivated me for over 25 years. I have just gone back and back to that phrase because it is so true. There's so many great books from the greatest minds that we should take the time to learn them. And so to answer our question of the day, why read? Because there's tons of nuggets of wisdom that we can discover. And we can discover them from the greatest minds who have ever lived. That's incredible. And that's why we should read. Now, in the future, we will be putting out a number of book lists from ourselves, but absolutely you should check out Father Schall's book because he has a ton of book lists at the end of each chapter. But for now, we have been talking about books for the last 3 years over on our MOJO Academy podcast. We call it the Theory to Action podcast. It's over there at mojoacademy.com, mojoacademy.com. Check out the link below. Be sure to check out our latest episode. And in our next video, we will stay with this book, Another Sort of Learning, and we'll explore the 2 other topics around reading. But for now, keep fighting the good fight.